let's talk about how faith and wisdom are directly connected and how the division of fear and faith within our hearts is not pleasing to God. James 1 verses 5 through 8. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Proverbs 9:10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. God will do nothing with a heart of fear, but can do anything with a heart of faith. Faith is the fear of God, and wisdom is directly tied to it. God is well pleased with faith. Any other fear is a snare and directly opposes faith. Mark 9:23, Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Job 28:28, and he said to man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to turn away from evil is understanding. Notice that he directly connected to fear and wisdom. He said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So here he's saying he has not given us fear, but these things he has given us: power, love, and a sound mind. So they are opposing one to the other. So love, what does love say about fear? Because God is love. 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. Now let's talk about tossed, which we read in James. Let me just read that portion again. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. So we are to have one or the other, not both. Tossed. These are our emotions. Our emotions toss us around like waves of the sea. And they can be powerful if we lend power to it, or we can lend our heart to faith. A perfect example of being tossed, and I would say physically and emotionally in this scenario, is Peter walking on the water. When he had faith, his eyes were on Jesus, and the tossed waters did nothing to him. So let's read this. Matthew 14, verses 22 through 33. At once Jesus had his followers get into the boat. He told them to go ahead of him to the other side while he sent the people away. After he had sent them away, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. So he sent them forward knowing they were going to face the storm. When evening came, he was there alone. By this time, the boat was far from land and was being thrown around by the waves. The wind was strong against them. Just before the light of day, Jesus went to them walking on the water. When the followers saw him walking on the water, they were afraid. They said, "It is a spirit." They cried out with fear. At once Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take hope, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter said to Jesus, "If it is you, Lord, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water to Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind, he was afraid. He began to go down in the water. He cried out, "Lord, save me." At once Jesus put out his hand and took hold of him. And Jesus said to Peter, listen to what he said, you have so little faith. Why did you doubt? When Jesus and Peter got into the boat, the wind stopped blowing. Those in the boat worshiped Jesus. They said, for sure, you are the Son of God. So when Peter had fear and looked away to the wind tossing the sea and to his own feet to help him, he fell. It was not the situation, but the posture of his heart that determined whether he fell or stood. So he started out with faith and he's ended with fear in this situation. This is how we can be tossed between faith and fear. And we won't receive what we're going for if we do, according to James 1, verses 5 through 8. And it would be interesting, and I did not research this yet, if this was the same James that wrote it who was actually on the boat, because James was one of the disciples, and I haven't researched, and maybe you know, if you know, you can put this in the comments, whether this was the same James who wrote this about being tossed that was in the boat with Peter. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day. It's all about Jesus.